Hi, everyone. So as I said before, we're at Atelier Amelia today for our CC by Garment District Alliance workshop. If anyone has questions at any point during the workshop, please send them in the Zoom chat or raise your hand, and we'll do a Q&A with Austin or Zuru at the end of the session. So with that, let's begin. Atelier Amelia is a full-service design, pattern, sample, and production studio based in the heart of NYC's Garment District. They support emerging designers in building a successful collection. Some of their services include tech pack, design, pattern, sample, fitting, material sourcing, cutting, and production. They are proud to be made in NYC, and they take part in rebuilding made in USA. So very thrilled to be here. Atelier Amelia is on 38th Street between 7th and 8th, right in the Garment District. And I'm here today. This is where everything happens. This is where all the client meetings happen. You can sort of see behind me, there are rails of garments, samples, prototypes, patterns, everything. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to Austin, who will give you the scoop and the intro about Atelier Amelia and what else they do here. So with that, Austin, I'm going to turn it to you. Sorry, Austin is on a call. So basically, when you're in a factory, things are happening all the time. As I've been here, the building managers come, clients have come, sewers have come. There's like always a rush in and out the door. So yeah, give me just 1 second and then we'll be right back with Austin.
Hey everyone, sorry about that. How's it going? I am Austin and I work mostly in product development here at the Atelier. So yeah, kind of what he went over. We work with a lot of emerging designers. A lot of them we develop the pattern and do the development and then production. It's really nice because it's all done under one house, so you don't have to go to a bunch of different people to get each step of the process done. So it really streamlines everything and allows us to have great communication with the sewers, and also, construction of the garment and any questions that come up or any issues while we're in development. So we do specialize in swim and lingerie for the most part, but we have moved into wovens as well. We're able to do this based on different sewers have different specialties. So we kind of have a development team and a production team for knit specifically. So swim and then any fabric that has stretch to it. And that's kind of what that team sews the entire day and all the time. So it allows to have specialty within knitwear. And then also when it comes to wovens, we have a wovens team who specialize in wovens, and that allows us to kind of work with a vast amount of brands, whether it's women's ready to wear, we do some men's tailoring, and then we also of course do athletic wear, swimwear, and some lingerie. So we're pretty broad in what we're able to offer. Another thing too that's really important when you're working with knitwear is having machines that allow you to work with knitwear. So we have a cover stitch machine, we have a flat lock machine, and then we have the machines that also feed in the elastic. So that's another important thing to have when you're working with swimwear specifically. That is kind of a specialized thing, and a lot of factories don't have here in New York. So we can show you a little bit around and a little bit of, this is our studio we're currently in. We have a factory on the other side where we'll be doing the bra tutorial. We're going to be working with an Underwire bra specifically, which is another kind of specialty that you don't see so much here, especially in New York, because it can be kind of difficult and temperamental getting the right shape and to get the wire to sit flush against the bust. So that's something that's a little bit more difficult, and something we also specialize in. So with that being said, I'll show you a little bit of the studio and our current projects that we're working on, just so you can get an idea of the space and kind of the different brands that we work with. Okay, we can start with, these are a couple of dresses that we're working on. So the client, she's actually been in New York for 20 years with this brand. But anyways, this is just a pretty simple fitted dress that we're kind of working on. Has kind of like these details here in the front, the invisible zipper in the back, and then it's also fully lined. So that's another thing we really value too, is quality. So every step of the way, we're constantly thinking about what can make a garment longer lasting, how we can sew it in a way that's not only more efficient, but a better finish. And then another thing too we work with is a good amount of different price points. So that's a big factor when you're producing something, is how you want to finish something. Because if you're doing it with binding, or if you're doing it with marrowing, then that's really going to affect your production cost. So that's a conversation that we're constantly having too with clients, is, what kind of price point are you looking at? And from there, we can kind of recommend different finishes and also even different constructions when you're at the pattern making process. So here's another client who does swim in some resort wear. This is a caftan that we did with her. She does these like really beautiful custom prints that are printed in Italy. So she's a little bit of a higher price point than the dress that I showed you. She's sold in a lot of luxury stores. And here is, so she does this swimwear that has a lot of rings. So it's kind of a little bit hard to tell when it's not on the body, but this is some swimwear we did with her, and it has a complete clean finish in the back. And yeah, then the rings, of course, are inserted after the garment is sewn. So it's actually considered a one piece, where this is kind of the bottom and this is the top with a double ring. So kind of something, a little bit more specialized. It's definitely, the rings are very in trend in swim right now. So we work with a good amount of designers that kind of have rings, because it's so in right now. And then she also does something like kind of fun. She does these like even button downs out of lycra. So instead of it being, out of cotton or a woven fabric, she does hers out of knit. So it's great, for like the beach, or just kind of a different feel that you don't see as much from a woman. And that's another thing too, is like every brand has such a different story and such a different idea. Hers specifically is the prints. That's her main thing. It's like all about the print and the fabric, whereas other clients, it's more about like the fit, or it's more about not the print specifically, but the type of fabric. And some clients are more sustainable, like they like to use organic or recycled materials, which is also a conversation that a lot of clients have with us, is how are we sustainable, and then also like what kind of fabrics we can potentially help them source or look at that would help make their brand impact the earth with less carbon specifically, which is like a huge conversation happening right now. So another designer we work with here in New York, all of these for the most part are New York based designers. We do work with a couple that are based like in LA, some are based even in the South, but for the most part, they're all based in New York, which makes it nice to work with them, because they can just come stop by and like look at it. But we also do a couple, kind of how we're meeting, like Zoom calls and photos, and work digitally. So this is another kind of dress that we just worked on. So this is to give you an idea. Let me take it out of the package. Right. So this is, very different from what we just showed you with the swim or even the first dress. It's made out of tulle and then has a slip on the inside. So this is something that is very delicate that you have to really pay attention to the hands specifically when you're sewing this garment, and it's something too that can't really be taken apart easily. So when you are sewing it, you have to really pay attention.
And everything that you've shown us, is it development going into production, or is it kind of a mix of like?
So some of it has been past stuff. Like the first dress is about to go into production. This is a current sample that will go into production. I think this is part of SS23. And then the sample before has already run through production. That specific silhouette will continue, like she runs that silhouette each year, that style each year. So it'll just be in a different print. Each year she introduces new prints to kind of keep it right. New ideas. So, and even, this is like a whole nother vision too. Like this brand is all about actually protecting yourself from the sun, this swimwear. So it has like the long sleeve, it's a little bit more modest. It's completely clean finish, and it is higher end, but also kind of the purpose, which is another thing to like think about when you're making something or that conversation. The purpose behind it is to protect yourself from the sun, but also do it in a way that looks kind of stylish and more high end. And so that's another conversation we're constantly having, is the purpose behind things. Is there a question?
We're just admitting someone to the room. And then this area, is this where all the client consultations might happen?
Right. So we meet everyone here. This is where we have the conversations, like different fabrics. Even we do our fittings here as well. So we host fittings. We pin garments and trying to. So another, when we're doing like a fitting, we're doing fitting, now this is all like pinned up. So we do them right here with the model, and it's nice because you get the dialogue and feedback happening in the moment instead of having to kind of wait for a response or whatnot. And also our pattern maker is able to kind of speak into the construction more so. We do, actually, I'll take you back so you can see this. This is something too that not as many places in New York do. It's definitely becoming more common. So we do all digital pattern making, and I'll show you the plotter. So we use a program called Tech, and that is really nice because you're not just tied to one pattern. So if something happens to that paper pattern, then you're just at a loss. Well, when you have a file, you can just print out another one. So that's a really nice way to work. It also allows you to work faster than having to work with paper, which you need more room for, and you also need more materials for. So it allows us to work more cleaner, more efficiently, and also we're able to reprint as many times as a client needs. And when we're doing grading, you can also grade with the same software or different software, but you're going to need a digital file. So that's also a big point too, where customers don't have to get a pattern digitized. They can just, sorry, we're accepting somebody else.
Yes.
Welcome to the chat.
We're welcoming Beverly and Jasminia.
Hello, welcome in. Welcome to the atelier. So I'm just kind of going over the printer. It's a pretty big plotter, is actually what it's called. So it's a 63-inch roll, and we can print not only sample patterns, but we print markers as well, which is also a very seamless thing. So once it's graded, it goes into marking, and we print it all right here. So keeping it again under all one one roof really allows us to be seamless and catch mistakes before they happen, or if they do happen, allow us to correct them quickly. So that's a little bit of our studio. I'm going to take you into the factory now, which is just across the hallway.
We have a quick question for you.
Yes.
How long does the product development take traditionally?
So it's more of a scheduling thing than how quickly something can be done. We typically do 2 to 3 weeks for product development, and that's for a new pattern and the sample. And then each round after that, it's typically the same. It's like 2 to 3-ish weeks. And that's just to kind of, manage the calendar and what's happening with all the different clients and work everybody in. Another thing too is like once we go into like production, which that depends on the quantity, but here since we support emerging designers, we're very flexible on the minimums because a lot of emerging designers just don't have, the higher quantities yet as they're still building their brand. And that process for production usually takes 6 to 8 weeks. So yeah, and then we usually for sampling we try to get it in 2 to 3 rounds, especially for wovens, which are a little simpler to fit. And sometimes that goes into 4, more so with the knits typically, because just the smallest change of even like 1/8 of an inch can really affect the fit when you're dealing with a fabric that has a good amount of stretch to it. So that usually takes a little bit more sampling. And the other thing too is when you're sampling something with stretch, you can't really do a muslin, right? So you just use the fabric that you're planning to use, because some people are trying to change fabrics that have different stretches, but then the pattern you have to restart the whole patterning process if you change the fabric. So that's our studio. I'm going to have Juru now come on and go over the factory and do the tutorial with you, but it's been great meeting with y'all, and here's Juru.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Hello.
Hi.
So good to see
Hey,
you.
yes.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. It's
You
fun.
have such
Yeah.
a beautiful space.
Thank you. Yeah, we moved in here last year
Okay.
from 35th Street. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
so-
great.
Yeah, it's nice to separate the factory, and then so we do a lot of fitting, here, although it's hard to keep it in control. All the
Well,
boxes
things
and
are
stuff.
coming in and out a lot,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So Austin gave us a great tour of this space, but I was just
Mhm.
wondering, could you tell us a little bit about your background and how you
Yeah.
started in fashion and when you decided to open your own atelier?
Wow. Yeah, my background. So it's interesting. I actually didn't really well, I studied fashion. I went to FIT, but I didn't really study initially apparel design in the beginning. I did accessories. So I worked in leather goods for over a decade. But then when I actually graduated, I decided to go back to continue education. So I got a minor in pattern making. So then, I think that with the work experience somehow just translated to what I do now. Yeah. So, sometimes it doesn't matter where you start. You always twist and turn and choose something that you are passionate about at the end. And I think that's a nice thing about, going for what we want to do. Yeah.
And then how did you get from there to here? And what was that journey like?
Okay, so it was not an easy journey, of course, yeah. But I was working actually for different companies for years. I had my own brand with my sister once upon a time before I started this business. And then when I was working, a lot of time I helped a lot of emerging brands and work with local factory or overseas factories. And that made me realize that it's not easy for emerging brands to find a factory that is supportive of small quantity and minimum. And then even for me, myself personally, I experienced that too. Just being placed at the back of the burner, or uh, getting delivery dates that are like 5 months long, because factories weren't set up to accommodate small quantities. So when I started the business, I had the idea that the way I'll set it up is to accommodate the small quantities. Yeah. So I don't know if Austin mentioned, but all of our sewers operate more than 3 machines, which means a lot of them can finish a garment from beginning to end, versus a lot of bigger quantity factory, one sewer operates 1 machine. Or let's say if you're making, 1,000 pair of pants, one sewer is only focused on the well pocket, and she does the well pocket all day long, and she's really good at it. And if you ask her to apply the front fly zipper, she will struggle. So and we've been operating this way with a small team. Kind of like looking at the project and working with selecting the right sewer for the project, because everyone has a little different hands. So when we do swim and knit and lingerie, we have sewers that are specialized to do that, this type of work. And then let's say if we do get a big quantity coming in, then we can assign other sewers to compose the part that they can do, and then do the finishing of the parts that are key. So the key sewers would do the main part. So like, for example, today, we are going to kind of show brief steps how to assemble a underwire bra. So, and the most difficult part is understanding the material, and then there's understanding elastic, and then as well as understanding how to apply the underwire casing precisely, and using the correct foot to do the work, and selecting the machines to do it. So I feel like each garment composed, there are so many steps, and most garment takes two. Like, I feel like woven takes 2 machines at least. Usually Merrill or the main machine you do on woven, actually we're using the single stitch straight stitch machine. That's pretty much like 80-70% of the work, and there's experienced hand sewer, the sewer maneuvering, like making a placket and stuff like that. And then sometimes you might get like a flat fell or something, that you need a flat fell machine, but usually it's just the Merrill and straight stitch, and straight stitch pretty much does mostly everything, like French seam, everything. But when we do knit, it requires a lot more machineries. Yeah. And that's, oops, sorry, my phone's ringing. That's the fun part of it. Understanding how these machines work and setting it up, adjusting the tension, and then you see the result when it's on. Yeah.
I think operating a machine is its own
Mhm.
its own thing that takes
Yeah.
a lot of knowledge and practice. Our participants
Yeah.
go through a training program, which is
Mhm.
15 weeks, and you learn a lot. But really,
Yes.
when you think about knits, it's like a whole nother level, and all the different types of machines and maintenance. And so on the call, we actually have Irene Mack from FIT, who did a sewing refresher course for our
Oh, okay.
participants.
Yes.
And yeah, just thinking about like all of the different knowledge you
Mhm.
really need for working in knits. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I think so. And it can sound like, for someone who's just getting into it, it can sound a little intimidating. But if there's a lot of YouTube videos and stuff out there, like how to operate this, how to thread the machine. And that helps a lot. Like, I think when I started the business in the beginning, I was naturally very good with machines, because they're all my babies. But sometimes when there's like thread skipping or something, you have to troubleshoot, so like before I call a mechanic in, I want to really figure out what's going on, if maybe something I can fix. So like like taking that effort to learn more about it, then eventually you really learn how the machine operates. And sometimes, I mean, it's a machine, it's man-made, right? So sometimes each machine has its own like characteristics. So once we learn more about it, then it's easier. And even for our sewers, when they operate the machines, for them, they like to operate their own machine. So if they are assigned to one machine, they like to operate on that machine because they already know how it goes. They know once they twist this, do that, adjust this, and come out exactly what they like, rather than spending like an hour trying to figure it out. So that really helps. Yeah. So I think it's really important to get to know the machines. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
So Austin gave us a great tour of this space. This is where all the
Okay.
fittings happen.
Yes.
This is where a lot of the things are printed on the plotter. But you also
Yeah.
have a second space, right? Do you think you could show us that?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
It's in the across the hall.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll take a little walk.
So our space is across the hall. Yeah, in this room. So this is our sewing space.
Wow.
I should actually, yeah. So I'm just gonna walk you through very briefly. So like ironing is over there.
Hello. How are you?
So she's one of our sewer that makes a lot of dresses and tops and stuff, mostly woven. So she's doing one. This is the lining, So to do the lining, she stitched it. We have to open the seams. That's what she's doing. Open all the seams up. So then when we assemble it, and then also like we have to iron the seams facing up. It depends on the garment because the curve is this way. So when we assemble the self to it, it would look flat and nice. Yeah, so she's doing that. For ironing, we do for like this is called basic ironing, like opening seams. Like usually our sewer does it themselves. But for like when the garment is finished, then we have a professional iron guy, person come in, and he does all the finish ironing.
I see, like the last minute pressing.
Yeah, before it gets on the hanger.
Okay.
Or before we fold it up. Yeah.
And that step is so important, right?
Oh yeah, it's important because a good ironing person, what do you call it?
Presser,
yes. A presser. They can really, like, experienced one would know how to handle different kind of fabric. Like for example, if you have silk, like not to put too much steam on it because the steam will actually make it wrinkle looking, and then certain area, because like especially armhole areas, when you sew, the machine when it's doing the stitch, it creates tension. So then even though they adjust the machine, the tensions are still there, especially going around curves. So the presser would, when they iron that area, they would know what to do, like stretch it a little bit and then put the steam and then put the heat on it so that it stays that way. So then when the garment is done, when it hangs or you put it on a mannequin, it's like perfection.
It's like an art form because they really are using their fingers. It requires really careful touch, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. And like really years of experience knowing the different materials that they're working with too. Yeah.
And so they can still use this equipment, right?
Oh yeah, so this equipment, we have a boiler. A boiler actually, it's not a big capacity one, but it can last a full day. So the pressure, like here, you see like the steam comes out.
Yeah.
right? So sometimes like, like one of those steamer you have at home and you just like steam on a garment,
Yeah.
you can do it that way. This is very lightweight. And here there's a step pedal that has a suction that sucks the, let me see. Oh, did we turn it on? Let's see. Oh, it's not on.
But
We didn't
normally it
turn it
would
on today.
suck the
It will
fabric,
suck
right?
the fabric. So then when you put the steam, it actually ventilates the steam through the fabric. So then it's not as hot. And then the wetness wouldn't stay on the garment. It would pass through and then it would go away,
Amazing.
which helps it, get the result. Yeah. That you want.
I like this section a lot of a factory.
Yeah. And then here, like we're doing heat press. So Ming, this is Ming. We're doing heat press on this little panty that we're working on. So we, have to test the temperature to see how the transfer logo would work the best. And then we place it. So we're doing 3 at a time.
Wow. And
then we place them on, and then it goes for like 10 to 12 seconds. Yeah. And then yeah, so like he's placing. So usually we make a little template, but because he's been doing it, you already can eye exactly where the center is, But I recommend like when you first do it, you do a little template, meaning like trace out the shape and then cut a square, that goes through like this. Then you always know the exact position. But he's been doing hundreds of them, so he already can eye it pretty close.
So this is for swim, right?
This is for lingerie.
For lingerie.
This is an underwear.
So would you say this type of heat press tag is like more prevalent or popular for like undergarments so that you don't have a itching or bothering?
I think so. In the recent couple of years, it gained a lot of popularity during the heat press because what it does is like it shows the like it has like the content on it. It has the logo, the sizing on it and everything. So then you don't need to put any like hang tag that scratches into your body. So it's very tight to body fit. Yeah.
And I would imagine you having this type of machinery kind of sets you apart from some other places that might not.
Yeah.
You can say, oh, look, we have the capability to do this.
Yes. So when we first have opened the business, we didn't have it, but we're getting a huge amount of requests. So then we got this one. This is actually a really good one. It's a little more expensive because I've got like a cheapy one from Amazon before. And because I was testing out in the beginning and I used it for like 3 months and it like smoked up. And,
oh my God.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa, So I did some research and got this one. It's actually an American brand and it's really good. Yeah, what is it called? It's called the brand is stars. STAHLS. Stars. Yeah, and they have different sizes. I think I got like the 13-inch. But they have smaller ones and bigger format. Yeah.
We have a question. Cross-train others for the machine in case one is out.
Cross-train others for the machine.
Do you want to clarify, Beverly? You want to unmute yourself and just ask? If you can.
Yeah.
And any other questions about the heat press or the industrial iron? We can come back.
Okay. And then here we are doing finishing bras.
Oh,
yeah.
Beautiful.
So this is, we're gonna learn how to do this channeling in a little bit. Yeah.
Wow.
So this is like the top is with pico. It looks funny right now because it's not iron and it's not trim yet. So all this is gonna be trim away, and then after that we have to do vortex, and then it will look really finished. Yeah. So Selena, She does all
Hi.
the trimmings. Yeah.
In progress, right?
Yeah, trimming. In process, yeah. So like this one is trim, so then
Mm.
Yeah.
Nice and clean.
yeah, nice and clean. It's beautiful.
Yeah, very.
And then okay, we can go over to the sewing table.
Okay,
Yeah, or like the cutting,
sure.
we do some cutting here. Right now, we just finished a lot. So usually with cutting is like we will require a cut ticket some sort. It has like the swatches on it. The swatches has to face up. So that way when the cutters see it, they know facing up is the self facing outward, So he follows this ticket and here has the quantities on it, how many of small, medium, large. So then he follows you to the picture on the bottom here. So then he can be like, all right, this is how it looks like. And we provide him with a sample. So that way, sometimes if we see something odd going on, like maybe the marker has something strange, why is there extra panel, we can have an eye throughout each step of the way to catch it and review it. Yeah.
And how does the roller work? It just moves the rolls easily so you can go back and forth if you have different layers?
When we lay the fabric. So like, for example, like let's say we have to make 20 swimsuits, right? And then so we have to lay 20 layers,
And if it's all the same size, you can use the same marker, put it on top?
Yes. So usually the marker would, you would cut from the grader, or like we create the marker with the different sizes on it so that we can maximize the fabric consumption. So like, like the pattern would have different shapes, but then all have to follow the grain line. So they would, like, when we create the marker, we will place it. So we see all that on the computer screen before it gets printed out. And then once it's printed, it's firm, then he lays that. And then we do the calculation with the amount of, fabric and the quantity that we need, and he lays it out. Oh, hi, this is Sifu.
Nice to meet you.
In this way, so you
He's
can
busy.
look at him this way. Yes. So so the roller, the fabric goes on this thing, and then this is like a little truck that you can move back and forth. So then he would move back, cut it. He will have a measurement, and then he cut it to the other end, and then he can move this forward, match the front of the fabric, and then pull the fabric back again. So then that's how it's layered. Yeah.
It's the way. One box, okay? Oh, thank you.
If you have to do any fusing, do you have to send it out or can you do it here?
So for small fuse, I have a small block fuse machine. It's one of those clamp ones, but I think like for sample and stuff, we use that, but for production, we do send the fuse out. So we do work with other cutting rooms outside that, sometimes we have big lots, we would send it to them for cutting. And then they also give us fusing service too, which helps a lot.
Because they're that big machine, right?
Yeah, those rolling machines that just go. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. And then here we just have this big shipment of fabric. We're trying to cut it up so that we can clear it. Here,
Is this the sew by reference for the
Anthony, I think you're on mute.
vintage sample or reference sample to look at, or even images from you know, images that shows the type of stitching is always helpful.
Yes, any reference. Can you all hear us okay?
Yes, thank you.
No problem. We're
Yes.
in the factory, it's a little noisy because we're busy. They're busy,
Yeah.
but we'll speak up a little louder too.
So we're doing the bra here, the underwire bra. So she's doing oh, she just ran out of bottom bed for
Just
the
got the bottom.
so we're actually doing a style very similar to the black style, but in another color that I showed you earlier. So this is in progress. So certain step has to be done before we apply the next step. So this is where she have already done this part and she's applying the last part of the elastic. So this brand, they're using a faux elastic. So it sandwiches the mesh in between, which is give it a very, very clean finish. You see, from outside and inside looks exactly the same. So it lays very flat on the piece.
So it almost looks like just a grosgrain that's not stretched, but it is elastic, right?
It is elastic,
Nice.
yes, and I can show you the roll right here. Yeah, so she orders function with a little bit more. So if you see, the line, that's the faux line in the center. And when the elastic with that line, you can fold it very easily, and it's meant to do this job. Yeah.
So it's perfect for swim. For
lingerie.
Lingerie, right?
I think swim you can use too. Yeah, but you have to test the swim. You have to make sure like it doesn't fade in chlorine or salt water or sun.
There's a whole bunch of
So-
things to consider, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Should we ask her to start doing the tutorial for the underwire?
Sure. That would be
Yeah.
great.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask her to do so.
Okay.
Okay. 青姐啊，你可以
Any questions about Atelier Amelia underwire bras, please send them in the chat or raise your hand.
Anthony,
And
your
we will
bandwidth
address
is really low. Anthony, your bandwidth is really low. You're breaking up the video.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. It's probably the internet.
Yeah, it's the
Apologies.
internet. Yeah. So especially this part, the demonstration is going to break up.
Thank you for letting us know.
You're welcome.
Maybe Anthony, I have a sewing machine in the other room.
Sure.
Maybe we can set it up there
Sure.
just to do the
That sounds good. I'll head
Do
over
you-
there.
do you- Okay, yeah, head over there.
Okay. We're gonna head back to the studio where the signal's stronger.
Yeah, the door is open, so I don't know how to improve.
We're gonna do it from there
Oh,
with the machine in a minute. Okay, so for anyone joining, you probably can't see this, but it says Atelier Amelia 646. I'm gonna type it in the chat so you have their information. Atelier. Yeah. 646 820 3850. Juru is the owner. Austin works with Juru. And we're back in the studio. Do you have any questions about swim or undergarments in general?
thank you.
That really is their specialty, but they can do wovens here as well. They work with emerging designers. We're just going to pause for a couple minutes so we can just get the machine set up for the demonstration. We're back in a moment. Okay, so for the makers that are on the call, Naya, Jasminia, Beverly, Stacy, have you ever sewn a garment with an underwire? I have not. So this is new for me. Once. Okay, that's more than me, Naya. So you're already a step ahead.
So maybe you can,
Just getting set up here.
哦，没电，还没电，拿那个线过来。
我这个凳子，这个凳子摆来摆去的。
Still getting set up here. Which Juki are we using?
Is the 555ON-7,
Okay,
which is the most
straight stitch, no?
straight stitch.
Okay.
Yeah, automatic cut thread. This is actually my favorite machine. So like this machine can handle the white head. They call it the white head. This is computerized, automatically back tack, and automatic cut thread. But you can turn it off and on. You have the ability to do that, the computer. And it can handle very thin materials like chiffon. And it can handle like even denim and canvas, which is very good. But of course, if you go anything thicker than that, then you have to change the feed all, you can adjust it. But if you're looking for, if you're looking for something that can really handle heavyweight, it's better to go with the broader machines. Yeah, because they're more powerful. Where the Juki is, to me, is very versatile.
Right.
Yeah. But like I feel like the broader machines, like if we do like lingerie and thin material, it's too powerful for it. Yeah. So yeah. Hold on a second. Let me double check.
So for those that just joined, I think that was Chamoy and Kuwant. We're at Atelier Amelia on 38th Street between 7th and 8th. And Zuru and her team are going to show us a demonstration of how to sew an underwire bra. And we're just getting set up here to demo it. And we're really grateful to Zuru and Austin for letting us come in.
Okay, great. It's on now. Okay, so okay.
You can change it. However you-
Yeah, I'm gonna move this forward. She's find a good position so you can see. She's testing the machine right now, just to make sure the tension, because this machine is in the studio and it's not one that she sit on all the time. That's why every time.
It's like driving a new car.
Yeah, exactly. Take it for a test ride. So what she's doing is she is applying. Okay, let me, okay. I'm gonna let her do one side, then I'm gonna show you what she's doing. Because for her, she's very intuitive, so she just goes in and does it, you know. But the underwire has two sides, so before she does the second side, I'll explain a little bit. OK， 金姐你出来的时候呢，我要跟他们解释一下。OK， 剪了它。OK， all right. So you see, the bra is this way. The underwire is on this part. So first, she apply the underwire on the side that attached the wing. So she stitches on the inner side of the underwire, but you have to make sure that it kind of lines up with where the seam allowance is, right? So when it lines up, you follow the edge of the seam allowance. And so the stitch, this is the outer side, this is the inner side, the stitch is on the inner side, where if you flip it over, is on the seam allowance. Right, and then for usually it's 1/4 to 3/8 seam allowance. Here we keep it 1/4 because once you keep it 1/4, you flip it around, it covers exactly, and you do another stitching on top of here. So I'm gonna have her do it we'll do one more. Again, the bra is assembled with the gore and everything, and the next step is the underwire. So the underwire goes here. We already did this one. So when we flip the bra over, the wing will sit underneath. And what we do is you have to kind of think about when the casing is sitting, right? Like here's the casing. When the casing is sitting, the casing has to sit this way. The casing basically have to sit, sorry. Yeah, sit this way. So then you have to think about it, where to start. So then that means you have to, and then we have to cover this seam. So then you would go here and cover this seam, and that's how it lay. So then once you figure out that part, how the casing would sit and where the seam should be, you flip open so you can make a decision that the stitching should start here. So on this side, so what it means is that it has to start, you have to stitch down right here, and then when you flip over, it's on the inside of the bra, and we insert the casing. Usually we leave about 1/2 inch past, because once we insert the underwire, we'll trim it off, then it's very flat. Because right now, like it depends on casing quality. Sometimes you fuss with it a little bit, it started to fuss, and then it wouldn't look good if that's our finished product. What we want to do is we leave a little. When it's done, we cut it, we do the bar tack. After the bar tack's done, we cut it off, and that's finished. Because with underwire casing, you can't really fold it. Once you fold it,
some people are like, oh, why can we fold it? I want very clean, but you see how thick that is? It's
Yeah.
not comfortable on the body.
Mm.
So when we make a bra, it's so important to consider the construction so that it's thin as possible, but also look really nice when it's finished. So I'm gonna have her sew this part. 今天你可以开始做这个。
So now she's gonna sew the other cup side.
The other cup side,
Mhm.
yeah. So then that way you guys could see,
痛痛
yeah. So like sometimes she trims a little if there's like excess,
Mhm.
yeah.
So she leaves a
Yeah.
little and then she stitches it on it.
But now remember now the foot that she's using is a special foot, and I can discuss that in a little bit. Yeah. So she's overlapping the underwire about a quarter. And then we have to flip the wing back. So the wing is on the, when we flip it back, the wing is on the outside. So now I'll show you. I'm gonna cut this because we're done. We leave like a half an inch. So now both sides are sewn the first step, which is
Casing.
the casing on, and then now we flip the casing, and that's what we want the finished result to be. And we do another stitch. So when we're flipping it through, we have to, because this is a mesh, you have to make sure inside is not dusty, thread stuck inside. So it's very clean. And when we do the other side, we also sew it from this side, but when it's flat on the table, we have to kind of make sure it's flat, because when it's flat, it turns out on this side perfectly.
Mhm.
There's something black on here that I need to clean. Yeah. So then she will do that, and then you'll see the result.
压线吧，
压线，对。
压线这个透明的就密压。
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So she said that she feels that when we do the top stitching, it's better to do the mesh up because she can control a little bit more of how flat it would look. Yeah. So she's gonna do it that way.
She can see it better, right?
Yeah, she can see it better.
这个喝来
嗯，
要用这个高低的。
对，我要跟她说，我等一下做完了，擦开那个盒给他们看。Okay, so she's doing the top stitching right now. So the top stitching is required by this client, but some clients don't require the top stitching. So we do a top stitching so that you see there's a stitching here, but you can choose not to do a top stitching because then it will look a little more clean and one stitching here. So, and then now she's doing the second stitching. Yeah, she's doing the second stitching that will.
透明的可以放在面侧，如果不是透明的，你可以在里面侧。
Oh, okay. So she said when the fabric is see-through like this mesh, you can do it from the stitch from the top. But if the fabric is not see-through, then it's okay to stitch from the bottom. Yeah, but usually when you stitch up from the top, there's more control. Yeah.
放在这里面线好看，所以我就习惯用这个。如果看不到，你只能在里面。对，在流水里面。
Yeah. So now this is the result that we're looking for.
And because it's mesh, you can really see everything. So the clean top stitch is really
It's very
important.
important, yeah. So you see this elastic is going in here. We try to keep it clean as possible, the way we trim it. but it's very hard. You might wanna, can we do it until the edge? It's very difficult. But because after the bra is finished and it doesn't look bad at all, you know, when you wear it. So, you know, we never really have a problem with, you know, and this is more of a higher end product. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna have her finish the other side. And then after that, we will insert the underwire. Yes.
这边再层，要不要再层？
要把它完成。Look at the 34B 32B 对吧？
不是32C，
32C。
挖牙就在我桌子上那个。
So she's so she used a, after sewing, some of the fabric might be sticking out. So she used a little thing, a little tweezer, and then because you see like these could be sticking out like this, right? After sewing, right? Oops. But you know what it is we just stick it back in so that when we do this actual stitch here later, nothing is looking like it's sticking out, and then it will secure it right here. So right now, so we can, after we sew both sides, it will look really good. It's all in place. We insert the casing. So this is a 34C casing. I think this is the 哪一边是前面？就差一点。Okay, the pink, usually the color is the front and then the back. So we'll insert this into it. So you kind of have to find the opening. Once you find the opening, you just push it through. And the spacing that we allow, it actually gives enough spacing for the underwire to fit through. So let me maneuver a little bit. So I think one thing important to pay attention to is that when the underwire is inserted, there should be a seam allowance about 3/8 from the top of the wire, right? It's hard, right? To the edge. And then same on this side, about 1/4 at least to 3/8. Because when we do the ball tag, the needle won't hit the wire. On here, this side, when we do the elastic over it later on like this, we'll have to kind of push this to the other end and just kind of do the elastic and then kind of maneuver it so it sits at the right place. So the needles won't hit the, so these are kind of stuff we're looking for. And also when it's done with the, you know, elastic right here, let's say, right? When it's finished, it will look like this, right? Your wire should sit kind of right underneath the edge up here, and this should sit under edge right here. What you don't want is if your channel is too long and when your bra is finished, I'm just pushing out this side, but it has this flimsy part because then it won't fit nice on the body. It won't hold as nice on the body. So now, after we do this part, we have to switch the thread to yellow to do the top stitching so that it looks good. And then this part, we don't have to do anything yet because we have to do the full elastic to encase it. And then it's going to be in yellow thread. So yes, so this is how it looks. right now. I think it looks pretty good. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It looks easy to do, but it does take some practice. So now I want to show you the foot that we're using. 帮我拿这个出来. So the foot that we're using is called the edge stitch. It's not a regular foot. It actually has a step, you see? It has a step right here. So and the needle goes in through right here. So there's 1/16 between the needle and the edge of the casing. So that's why we always get a perfect 1/16, because when this is going through, you see how it's like a step. This is always going to go along. The lower step is always going to go along the edge, and that's how we always able to control where the stitching is. It's always a 16 from the edge. Yeah, so this is a really important foot to have if you do any type of top edge stitching, and pin tucks and everything use this foot too. Yeah, so this is very handy to have. Okay, great. Do you think we should look at applying the elastic on the top?
I think let's see if we have any questions. We're actually almost at time.
Okay.
But I think just the exercise of showing how the casing was attached, and then the top stitching, and then the underwire put in, so helpful. Yeah, it looks very easy, but there's really a lot of steps to even get to where you started this step.
Yeah, we, maybe in the future we can have more time and show another tutorial.
Yeah.
But to do the other step is a little more simpler. It's a matter of just kind of assembling it. It's a little bit more intuitive, where I feel like this step for the underwire, like if you have basic sewing knowledge, the other steps are easy to figure out. But this is the one that you kind of, I think it's the most difficult part. I think it's good to show this part. You know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for showing us.
Okay.
And can we ask your sewer how many years she's been sewing, and like?
Yeah. 欣姐，你车衣车了多少年啊？
我车衣从18岁开始车。
Wow, she started when she was 18 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, so she
40多年。
This is the 40 something years, 40 years.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so she before she came to America, she had her own shop that does tailoring. She has her own shop and she does custom tailoring for all her clients.
Amazing.
So when she started her sewing career, she was following a tailor master for many years, but she also know basic pattern making too. So a lot of time, if she sees like, oh, why is that shape weird, right? She always comes back and tell me, you need to change your pattern, Yeah, because sometimes when we take outside pattern, we don't know who make it. It's hard for us to control until we make it, So she's very knowledgeable. And then I think, even for her experience, every day she tells me, not every day, once a while when we have a discussion, or when we work on something new, I think it's very important to keep an open mind, that there's, even if you're sewing for 40 years, there might be something new that you can improve. And that was kind of like her her thoughts on her sewing experience, because in our industry, yes, we're working with technology, but we're working with like the movement of fashion. Now nobody wants darks, like how, like aesthetic, the fabric technology. So for her, sometimes she's dealing with different kind of for her, sometimes she's dealing with different kind of fabric, and sometimes recycled fabric might work different. If we're environmentally conscious, sometimes we might use some techie fabric that gives certain volume.
Right.
And sometimes she still finds it surprising that, oh wow, like this fabric is different,
So I think that is really important to keep like the open mind to
Yeah.
different kind of materials.
You're
Yeah.
always learning.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you, 青姐。可以了。
So we're almost at time, but I just wanted to ask the group, are there any questions for Juru about Atelier Emilia or any questions in general? We're so happy to be here today. And I invite you to keep in touch with Juru and Atelier Emilia. They really do enjoy working with emerging designers. And as you can tell, they have a great team here to work on different types of products. But yeah, really, really cool to see the demonstration. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. It's fun for us.
So thank you so much. I'm getting a lot of thank yous. Thank you for the tour. Brava, great demo. Thank you.
Yes. And any questions we can answer. Yeah. If you have any questions, let us know.
And can I put your website in the chat so people can take a look?
Yeah, yeah. Our website is very simple, you know, just yes, correct. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. And then if someone were interested and say they had a project, what's the best way for them to reach out? Just go on your website, send an email, set up a meeting?
Yeah, an email. Yes, set up a meeting. Or send over. It's good. Like things that you can prepare for the meeting is you know, having your sketches or like a basic tech pack. We don't really require like a super elaborate tech pack.
Mhm.
You know, and then we can talk over the construction in the meeting, so that way it makes the meeting move, you know, to
Yes.
the next step.
So you
Yeah.
don't get too stuck.
Yeah, and then also, you know, it really helps to, I think that also clears your like kind of like your vision too a little bit of what makes sense during our meeting.
Mhm.
And you know, like it's good to have like some fabric swatches, you know,
Mhm.
so then we can review it together and see like, oh wait, that works, or like that doesn't work as well, maybe you need something thicker, you know. Or
Mhm.
like, you know, if you want to do swim, you know, you have to get a four-way stretch, you know. And I know sometimes you might fall in love with a two-way stretch and you're like, I really want to use this fabric, what can we do, you know. So that's the discussion. Yeah. So,
Great. Thank you so much.
yeah.
I don't think there's any more questions, so we're right at time, so we will say farewell, but thank you so much for
Yes.
inviting us in. We really, really appreciate it. It's
Yes.
been really nice.
Yes,
So,
it's my pleasure, our pleasure.
all right, thanks everyone. Have a good rest of your
Thank
week.
you. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Yes.
It was a great tour.
Thank
Yes.
you.